Karl Marx, a name that still burns in the heart of every revolution and every regime. In this video, we go beyond the slogans, we dig deep into his life, his ideas, and the shadow they cast on the world. Part 1. Who was Karl Marx? He was born in 1818 in Trier, Germany, to a Jewish family that had converted to Christianity. From a young age, his pen was like a blade, sharp, ruthless, and tired of official lies. Karl Marx was a philosopher, an economist, but above all, he was a fierce critic of the system. He studied philosophy at the University of Berlin and wrote a lot about the suffering of people, about the factories that turned men into machines, about a world where wealth belonged to the few and work belonged to the many. What was his mission? To analyze the roots of power, to expose the invisible chains of society, to show that history is not a tale of morality or luck, but a battleground between two forces, those who have and those who work. He didn't just write about poverty, he lived it. He buried his children in London, not from war, but from hunger. Ironically, the man who criticized capitalism was kept alive by a capitalist's son. Now that we've seen the man behind the name, it's time to understand what truly haunted him. Why did Karl Marx believe that all of human history is nothing more than a battlefield, a constant war between classes? Part 2. Class struggle, a battlefield for endless war. Between classes. The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. But what does that mean? Marx didn't believe history was about kings, or wars, or even ideas. He believed it was about a constant tension between those who own and those who work. Since the birth of the earliest societies, people have been divided into two main groups: those who own the means of production, land, gold, factories, power, and those who own only one thing, their labor. This divide has always existed. In empires, in the Middle Ages, in the Industrial Revolution, the names of the classes changed: lords and serfs, landowners and peasants, capitalists and workers. But the war remained the same. Marx said, "This struggle is not accidental, it is not moral, it is structural. As long as a minority owns everything and the majority must sell their labor to survive, this war will never end." Throughout history, human societies have never been truly equal. There have always been those who have more and those who have less. Some say this is natural, that inequality in moderation creates movement, ambition, and growth. But we must ask, is class divide a necessary part of progress, or is it the root of all injustice? Let's look at it from both sides. Let's try to see if this gap can ever be good, or if it's just a wound we've learned to ignore. But is class divide always a bad thing? Some argue when controlled and limited, class difference can be a driving force for progress. Competition between classes can fuel innovation. People strive to move upward, from lower to higher classes, and that ambition keeps the wheels of the economy turning. They ask, if everyone is completely equal, who chooses to work harder? But Marx responds, what good is it if a few can rise when the majority can't even see the ladder? Class divide, when deep enough, doesn't inspire ambition. It destroys it. It divides society into distrust, resentment, and quiet despair. The upper class becomes wealthier, not through effort, but through power. And the working class, trapped in a cycle of labor, debt, and silence. Part 3. A world without ownership. If class struggle is the ancient wound of human history, then Marx tried to write the cure. But his solution wasn't simple. He didn't want to just redistribute money. He wanted to rebuild the entire structure. Imagine a world where land, factories, and wealth belong not to one, but to all. A world where people live not based on wealth, but on need, ability, and shared purpose. This was Marx's vision. Not a fantasy utopia, but a system of justice where equality is not just a word, but a lived reality. What did Marx want? Marx believed that the root of inequality lies in one thing: private ownership. When a few people control the means of production, land, factories, capital, they hold more than just money. They hold the power to shape the lives of others. Marx argued, true equality begins when the tools of production belong to the people, not to the few. He didn't mean stealing personal property. He meant ending a system where private profit grows from collective labor. He envisioned a society where production is organized not for profit, but for human need. Natural resources, major industries, and infrastructure are publicly owned. Each person contributes according to their ability and receives according to their need. He called this system communism, not as a dictatorship, but as the final stage of social evolution, a world where the state, classes, and ownership are no longer necessary. But this transformation wouldn't happen overnight. First, capitalism had to reach its own limits. Workers would need to become conscious, united, and rise. Then a temporary stage would begin, a dictatorship of the proletariat, not ruled by a person but by the working class as a whole, and in time, as class divisions disappeared, so would the state itself. For Marx, true freedom was not just escaping the king, it was escaping the invisible rule of money. Part 4. When ideas are taken hostage. Marx wrote about equality, but in the 20th century his name was carried on flags that crushed freedom. He spoke of a future without the state, but regimes rose in his name that made the state untouchable, even sacred. His ideas aimed for justice, but from them came prisons, censorship, fear. So what happened? How did a vision of liberation become a tool of control? Real-world examples. In the Soviet Union, Stalin ruled in Marx's name, but he silenced freedom. He exiled dissidents, executed intellectuals, and left the people waiting in lines for bread. In China, under Mao's Cultural Revolution, millions were persecuted, not for crimes, but for wrong thoughts. In North Korea, Marxism became a religion. The leader became a god, the people slaves to fear. And even in countries like Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran was established in 1979. Where Marx's name is rarely mentioned, the result is similar. Major industries, media, and wealth are concentrated in the hands of a powerful elite, one that declares itself sacred and untouchable. The truth is, there are many countries where power is concentrated, where democracy is a word, but fear rules the streets. In this video, we shared a few examples, but the list is far from complete. Do you know of other places where power hides behind ideology and justice is just a mask? Share them in the comments. Let the world know. Truth becomes louder when it's shared.